The first time anyone noticed her trembling in the alley, she had no voice to scream, no words to explain the fear that chased her. Her small frame huddled under a torn jacket, eyes wide and unblinking, darting from shadow to shadow as if the darkness itself held teeth. Her name was Lily, a 16-year-old girl who had been born deaf and had learned early that the world didn't always slow down for her. That night, her hands trembled as she signed frantically to the air, words she hoped someone could understand. "He won't stop following me." Little did she know someone was watching, someone who would not just hear her silent plea but take action that no one could have imagined. Before I continue, if you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel Silent Hope. Let's spread stories that remind the world that courage and compassion still exist. Lily had always been careful. She knew the streets could be merciless, and the world often ignored those who couldn't raise their voice. Her mother had passed away when she was just a little girl, leaving her with memories of warmth and laughter that seemed like another lifetime. Her father had abandoned them before she could even speak, and the foster system had been a series of fleeting homes, each less stable than the last. Yet Lily carried herself with a quiet dignity, one that came from surviving the odds stacked against her. But tonight, the fear she felt was different, sharp, invasive, and unrelenting. She had noticed him weeks ago, a shadowy figure lingering near her school, the grocery store, even the bus stop she used every morning. Each time she turned, he was there, a few steps behind, never approaching but never disappearing either. Lily's heart had learned to brace itself for this constant shadow, her instincts screaming that he wasn't just another passerby. One evening, as she walked home, through the dimly lit park, she finally turned to face him, signing desperately, hoping someone would see her hands flail and understand her silent alarm. It was at that exact moment that Daniel entered her life, a single father in his mid-30s who had recently moved to the city with his young daughter, Mia. Daniel was a man who carried a quiet strength, a patient demeanor forged from years of raising a child alone after his wife's sudden passing. He had noticed Lily that night, the urgency in her gestures, and instinctively understood her fear. Something in her eyes told him this wasn't just teenage worry, it was terror. Without a word, he moved closer, a protective presence that neither Lily nor the shadow behind her could ignore. The following days blurred into a tense routine. Daniel found himself watching Lily from a distance, not in a threatening way, but as a guardian, a silent shield. He noticed the bruises on her arms, the haunted look in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. He saw her startle at every unexpected noise, flinch at every sudden movement. And then, one evening it happened. The figure following her finally approached, a man whose intentions were sinister, whose gaze lingered far too long. Daniel didn't hesitate. He intervened, putting himself between Lily and the man, his presence enough to make the stranger stumble back in surprise before fleeing into the night. That moment marked the beginning of an unspoken bond. Lily, who had learned to trust no one, found herself relying on Daniel in ways she hadn't imagined. She couldn't speak, couldn't call for help in the ordinary sense, but she could sign. And Daniel, who had long ago mastered patience and understanding, learned to read her gestures, her subtle expressions, and her silent language. Slowly, she began to trust him, showing him glimpses of the girl behind the fear, her humor, her intelligence, her vulnerability. Life, however, was far from easy. Daniel was juggling raising his own daughter, holding down a demanding job, and navigating the complexities of a city that never paused. And yet, he made time for Lily. Every morning he would walk her to school, ensuring the man who had been following her was nowhere in sight. Every afternoon he would check in, even if it was just a quick glance from across the street to confirm she was safe. Through it all, Lily's gratitude was palpable, though quiet. A smile, a nod, a hand squeeze. But gratitude, though deeply felt, could not erase the scars of fear she carried. One rainy evening, Daniel invited Lily and Mia over for dinner. The warmth of his home, the smell of freshly baked bread, and the laughter of a little girl who reminded Lily of simpler, happier days created a cocoon of safety she had never experienced. For the first time, she felt like a child again, free from shadows and fear. But just as they began to relax, a new challenge emerged. School officials questioned Daniel's involvement in Lily's life, misunderstanding his protective instincts. They saw a man interfering where they assumed no intervention was needed, ignoring the history of stalking and fear that had led to his actions. Daniel's response was firm, calm, and unwavering. He shared Lily's story, explained the threats she faced, and detailed the silent cries she had made that no one else had seen. Slowly, the officials began to understand, their skepticism replaced with concern. Daniel's unwavering dedication, his willingness to fight for a girl who couldn't speak her fears aloud, inspired a change in them. Policies were adjusted, support systems activated, and for the first time, Lily realized that help could come from unexpected places, and that people could truly care without asking for anything in return. Months passed, and Lily's life began to transform. Daniel worked to enroll her in a program designed for deaf students who had experienced trauma. There, she learned not only language and communication, but also confidence, self-expression, and the courage to reclaim her life from fear. Daniel attended meetings, spoke to teachers, and never allowed her to feel alone, even as the city hummed around them, indifferent to her story. One day, Lily arrived home, her hands trembling, but not from fear this time. She had signed something to Daniel, something simple but profound. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Daniel, who had faced his own share of life's hardships, felt an unexpected swell of emotion, tears threatening to fall as he hugged her. That moment crystallized everything they had endured, the fear, the danger, the quiet battles, and illuminated the extraordinary power of compassion, patience, and unwavering commitment. Her story began to spread, quietly at first, then more widely, inspiring people who watched her journey unfold online. Videos of her signing, her small victories, and the man who refused to let her face fear alone went viral, not for sensationalism, but for the raw humanity they portrayed. Comments poured in from strangers moved to tears, expressing admiration for both Lily's courage and Daniel's steadfastness. People shared the story, hoping that in a world too often divided by misunderstanding, such examples of kindness could remind them of what truly matters. It was during one of these viral moments that Lily finally felt her voice, her real voice, not through words, but through the impact she had on others. She had survived threats, abandonment, and doubt, and yet she emerged with strength, dignity, and hope. Daniel, who had always lived with a quiet sense of responsibility, found himself deeply humbled. The man who had walked into her life on a rainy night had not just saved her from immediate danger, but had helped her rediscover trust, safety, and a possibility of happiness. And as Lily walked through the same park where she had first felt terror, this time with confidence in her step, she noticed something extraordinary. The shadows that had once haunted her no longer had power over her. She had learned that courage wasn't about the absence of fear, but the presence of someone willing to fight alongside you. Daniel had been that presence, unwavering, patient, and kind, and together they had rewritten a story that had once seemed destined for darkness. Through this journey, Daniel and Lily became symbols of hope. In the face of fear, they demonstrated that compassion could triumph, that one person's dedication could alter the course of another's life, and that kindness, when paired with courage, could create ripples that spread far beyond what anyone could see. Their bond, unspoken yet profound, reminded everyone who heard the story that no one is truly alone, and that even in a world full of danger and doubt, human connection can heal the deepest wounds. Before we move to the final part of this story, I want to ask you, the viewers, if this tale touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of empathy and second chances, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your engagement helps us tell more stories like Lily's and spread hope in places where it's most needed. Lily's life, once defined by fear, slowly became defined by possibility. She excelled in school, discovered new passions, and began mentoring younger deaf children, teaching them not only language, but resilience. Daniel continued to be her guardian, her friend, and a quiet hero who never sought recognition, only the knowledge that she was safe and growing. Together, they built a life that was a testament to endurance, love, and the extraordinary power of someone who refuses to abandon another in their darkest hour. Just before we end this story, I'd love for you to comment below on the moment that moved you the most. Let's create a space where kindness and empathy are celebrated. In the end, the world saw a poor deaf girl who had been silently pleading for help, and they also saw a single father who had answered that silent call. What he did wasn't dramatic or flamboyant. It was real, human, and profoundly life-changing. The man who refused to walk away from a girl in need gave her not just protection, but the courage to embrace life fully. Lily, once a shadowed figure trembling in fear, emerged as a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest streets, the light of compassion can guide someone home. And so, their story lives on, not in headlines or fleeting news, but in the hearts of those who dare to care, who choose to act when action is needed, and who understand that love, in its simplest and purest form, can truly change everything.